There is this thing called recoil. It's the trigger that sets it off, and we have to find our patterns in door to door. When do we freak out? When do we get uncomfortable? And everybody's different. For me, it was the rain. I had to get used to that. For me, it was knocking really rich neighborhoods. You know where your triggers are and where your responses are. You can go for it. Do you want to do 1 million? Do you want to do 1,000 accounts? Okay. Thinking about it. And guys, what happens is you get obsessed with your goal. You're going and doing cold plunges when no one tells you to. And you're talking to yourself and you're trying to beat yourself. You're thinking about it all the time when you're at the gym. It's in your brain relentlessly, and you're testing yourself. You want to see, like, how do you handle yourself during these triggers, like during these moments? And so you're setting these goals. Set some goals for yourself to be able to measure yourself and see how dedicated you are. Set goals for waking up. Set goals for reading. Set goals for any sort of training or practice or anything that you can keep yourself to, and don't over leverage yourself. Like, you know what you can do, and you know what adjustments you need to make, but you need to make those adjustments, and then you need to watch yourself go through it. And don't be afraid when those moments come. Guys, winners don't look at a loss like it's this devastating thing. It's actually good to know. It's good to know that I feel that way, or it's good to know that I respond that way, so I can start to make these changes. And as you do that, the whole goal with this, right, as you go through this, you start to shift your paradigm. When I start to feel these voices come in, or I start to feel this doubt, I've already overcome this so many times that you start getting more and more confident and things start to get better. When I do cold plunges now, I feel really comfortable. I'm not shaking and freaking out like I was my first couple times. It's just as natural. We start getting better. We have this thing called the subconscious. I call it the superconscious because it dominates. It dominates, right? When you put somebody in cold water, it's really easy to see the freak out. You see it. You're like, okay, right? And it's there. You can't lie. What happens, guys, as humans, right, we are programmed to just exist and survive. And so our brain recognizes these pain patterns and it naturally fights back. And I'm gonna get really deep with you guys, right? To make this really simple. If you were molested when you were little and you get put in a sexual situation when you're older, your brain is naturally going to have resistance. And that's not your fault. But you have to be aware of that resistance. Escaping it, pretending it's not there, not being present through the iterations won't work. You have to go through it. There is this thing called recoil. Guys, it's the trigger that sets it off, and we have to find our patterns in door to door. When do we freak out? When do we get uncomfortable? Is it from the heat? And everybody's different. For me, it was the rain. I had to get used to that. For me, it was I got over a big hurdle when I started knocking really rich neighborhoods, right? Like, you know where your triggers are and where your responses are. You guys know. And go for it. Go for that. That was my approach always. When I would find something that was like, oh, that's tough, instead of being like, okay, I'm gonna try and do my whole summer not feeling that, I'm like, no, if I wanna have a really solid summer and I wanna guarantee that I'm gonna have success, I gotta learn how to knock all the different types of people. I gotta know how to knock the low income, the middle income. I gotta be able to try and sell the asshole in the neighborhood that thinks he's like super cool and he's like a total douche, right? Like, I gotta be able to do these things. I gotta be able to do these things. And it makes you really confident when you go through these things. Because then it's not like, hey, put me in this like special cush new construction. Put me in this like never been knocked type stuff. It's like, no, dude, I'm gonna go in, and my goal always is to do it better than anyone else would do it in that neighborhood. And I can look myself in the face after, and I never lose momentum. So if I have a negative day, guys, the same as every golden door, how do they bounce back so fast? How do they always bounce back? How do they stay consistent? Because they know what they were doing the whole time, and they prepared. That's what's different. Does that make sense? So guys, to give you guys a microcosm story of this summer, my buddy Mitch calls me and he's like, hey dude, come in July and do this really gnarly event called 29029. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And he's like, well, we're gonna hike up about 1,200 feet of elevation. We're gonna take a gondola down. We're gonna do that enough times to where it equals the elevation of Everest. And I'm like, all right, I'll think about it. And he's like, no, Calvin, this is gonna be the hardest thing you've ever done. And I'm like, all right, now you're speaking my language. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, seriously, Calvin, like, it's gonna be freaking hard, but it'll be a paradigm shift. Like, you'll have some perspective shifts. So I'm like, okay, I'll call you back. I'm like, pretty interested. I'm pretty sold already. He calls me back in 30 minutes. He's like, hey, enough time, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Send me the email, we're doing it. So it's expensive, guys, okay? So I wire my, I pay my thing, it's like, whatever it was, like 7 or 8 grand, and, I sign up for this thing, and I realize, like, I've never done anything endurance ever, really, like, not like crazy, like marathon, whatever, but like, I've never like pushed my body to like those levels that I know I'm about to get into. So I start my work in prep. Mind you, when I said I'm gonna do this, Mitch played in the NFL, and he's a physical specimen, and I didn't want Mitch to think that he was like my daddy, so I'm like, I'm gonna try and beat Mitch. That was pretty much like my target, right? Like, I want Mitch to know that like I'm an asset for him, and I'm gonna help him throughout this event. That was my thing right when I signed up. So I go start hiking Utah. Guys, I just went on hikes, and I just got used to it, and I started to learn how to use poles, and I started to learn different techniques, and I started to measure my heart rate with my Whoop and all these things, and I'm doing it. The event starts, and I cruise up the first time. It's the exact same thing with everything. I finished that. I signed up for Kilimanjaro that I just barely finished. And when you get to one mountain and you actually took the time to be present throughout the thing and actually feel the pain, actually go through it, there's just another mountain to go right after. So get used to being in the moment. Get used to telling yourself it's your story. Get used to putting yourself through hard things intentionally because you want to be the best at the end of it, and feel that joy of growth. Feel that joy of looking at the mountain around you and knowing that you're out of breath, but you're taking it in, and you're taking in the company of the people along the way. So, thank you guys.